Dr. Laura,
Yes.
how do you know Kymmberly's story? Or was she at Heritage International School?
Kymmberly Stowe came to Heritage she was hired as a principal for the secondary school. So we knew her as the secondary principal.
All right. For how long had she worked here?
Up to October.
And then how did she leave?
There was some question about her integrity, and so she was put on leave while investigation was being done. And the investigations came out, and the school decided to not complete her probation because she was on probation for 3 months, and certain things had come up. And so at the end of the probation, we did not certify her as an employee of Heritage.
Well, what's the method of communication to staff in case you have issues in regards to when they should take leave? How do you communicate?
There are various ways. The HR would send an email to the concerned party to let them know about this, and then should there be a time for discussion, that can also be held.
What do you think of, what do you make of the allegation that the communications, whatever was going on, she got to learn of it on WhatsApp?
Sorry, can you say that again?
That whatever was going on and happening, she learned of it on WhatsApp. No formal communication whatsoever.
That's inaccurate because an email was sent to her. A letter was actually taken to her home, which she refused to receive. So that is inaccurate.
Did she ever carry out an assessment of the staff and what was going on in the school and compile a report?
I was not informed of that, so I cannot speak to that.
So the report that she was talking about, she concocted it, or?
As I said, I was not informed about that, so I cannot speak to that.
So then the allegations that she put forward that there was recruitment that was unfair to the Ugandan staff, that was favoring the foreign staff. Was it true or false?
That was false.
Why?
We had, let me start from the beginning. We had one of our teachers who was on maternity leave, going on maternity leave. So to preempt her absence, we started looking for a teaching assistant who would support during her absence. So we interviewed several people. On this one occasion, we interviewed a Kenyan applicant who Kymmberly had recommended we interview. However, when we looked at her documents, she was not qualified for that particular subject. Her degree was in English literature. We were looking for someone who was certified to teach Bible, or what we know as CRE, Christian Religious Education. During the interview, it came out clearly that she was a fairly new, she hadn't practiced teaching at all, so she really did not have the skills for that. But the biggest issue was she was not a CRE or Bible teacher. And so at the end of the interview, we concluded this would not be the right fit, and for the reasons I have given. However, she then sent an email. However, before that, the HR generalist sent a concluding summary about the interview and why she would not be recommended as the person to take over. She counter-wrote that she interviewed very well, we should take her on, and the group has decided that she's the right fit. And this was the Kenyan lady. And so that was the first red flag. Why is she saying something very different? So that was a very big red flag. So when she alleges that a Western or foreign person was chosen over a Ugandan, that was not right.
What's the role of the principal in regards to recruitment of staff?
The principal looks at the qualifications and interviews because they have more experience of what happens in the classroom. They give their recommendations. After they give their strong recommendations about an individual, the HR then follows up with the references. What are other people saying about this person? And when the references are all good, then the final hiring is done.
Was she the principal?
Yes, she was the principal.
So if she was the principal and she gave a recommendation, why was it disregarded?
It is not only one person that gives their full recommendation. It is a team. So as a team, we had discussed, and that was what we had said, as a team.
Because I thought you're saying that the principal makes recommendation, then cascades it to HR and other teams. So if the principal has given a recommendation, why would you look at that as a red flag?
So as I said, it was a team, and after the interview, the team, including her, had said these were the reasons that we would not take her on.
So what do you make of the allegations of racism?
I was a bit surprised how it was of relevance during that situation, because all parties interviewed were black, so to say, either Kenyan or Ugandan. We did not interview, Kenyan is a foreigner, we did not interview someone of a different color, let me put it that way.
What are the principles when you're ending a contract? What do you follow? What are the procedures?
What are the procedures for?
Ending a contract of a staff.
First of all, when someone is employed, you're given a 3-month probation. There's an informal observation that happens. Your supervisor will see how you're performing, has weekly meetings with the principal or whoever it is, especially with the leadership team. We have weekly meetings and we are questioned about what is happening, or we give reports about what's happening. So your supervisor would be the one to either recommend that probation ends or is extended, depending on whatever is happening. So her supervisor would have been the one to speak into whatever was happening with her.
You said you suspended her because of misconduct. She was on suspension. I'd like to know, was she suspended after 3 months? Was she suspended during the 2nd month? At what point was she suspended?
It was right before the end of her probation.
Probation, you said 3 months?
Yes.
So it was after how many months?
Right at the end
of the probation.
Of the probation.
What about the allegation or her argument that she had already passed the period of probation?
It couldn't have been the end, because the probation happens after 3 months. School, everyone's contract, we started August 1st. So I think she was suspended right before the end of October, which was right before the end of 3 months. So she had not completed her probation. Okay,
what instructions did you give to Immigration's office in regard to her case?
I was not the one who gave any instructions.
The school. You're now speaking on behalf of the school. What instructions did the school give in regard to her visa cancellation?
The school's part was to let Immigration know that she is no longer an employee of Heritage, and our contract with her has ended, and therefore, because the visa that she had was a work visa, that was ended. So that's the part that the school played. Immigration does the rest.
In fact, she's alleging that you could be having a hand in terms of influencing the powers that be to ensure that she does not return in this country. 2 times she's been denied a visa. What do you make of that?
I think that you'd have to address with Immigration. Did we have a hand in stopping them in telling them to stop her from coming in? That's a very big accusation. I don't think we have the power to control what Immigration does.
Were there any time when the school was called in to labor organizations to mitigate this issue?
Outside of Kymmberly?
Outside of the same Kymmberly issue.
Yes, I understand the school had some time with the Ministry of Labor, yes.
How did it conclude?
I'm not sure. I can't speak to that because I wasn't part of that.
Then how about these other issues that were talked about, allegations that were in that report in terms of sexual assaults, several other glaring issues that were alleged against some of your staff. What clarification do you have on that?
There is no evidence of sexual assault here at school, and there has never, ever been one.
In fact, there was allegation that there is one child who is no longer here who had mentioned that such a thing had ever happened.
That one is a story that I wish there could be evidence or documentation or anything. It has never, ever happened here at Heritage International School.
Have you ever reprimanded any of the staff for such a matter?
Against a student, we have never had any
Never registered such a case?
Never.
And in case of any allegations in that regard, what steps do you take to address that?
We have a policy. It clearly states what happens, because there are various things that can happen. So each situation has its own policy. So depending on what the issue is, there's a policy that addresses that. Because every employee of Heritage has to go through a safety and safeguarding course at the beginning of every year to make sure we understand what is expected of us in that direction. So we have no tolerance for any sexual misconduct.
Thank you so much for according NTV your time.
All right. Thank you.